Picture this. Your baby has been babbling nonstop all morning, kicking their feet, making sounds, lighting up every time you walk into the room. Then someone else walks in, maybe your sister, your neighbor, your baby's own grandparent, and the moment that person steps through the door, your baby stops. Everything stops. The sounds stop, the movement slows, the little face goes completely still, eyes wide and locked in. Just watching. No crying, no smiling, just this deep, unblinking silence that lasts long enough to feel almost eerie. And you're standing there watching it happen, not sure whether to laugh it off or be concerned. The other person leans in a little, trying to be warm and friendly, and your baby still doesn't flinch, just stares, quiet, almost unreadable. If you've been there, you know the exact feeling. And here's the thing, most parents either shrug it off as shyness or quietly wonder whether something is off. But what if both of those reactions are missing something much more significant? What if that silence isn't shyness at all, and it isn't confusion, and it isn't fear, at least not in the way most people mean it? What if that silence is one of the most intelligent things your baby has ever done? What's actually happening inside your baby's brain in those quiet, still moments is something that developmental psychologists have been studying for decades, and the answer is genuinely remarkable. It's not what most parents are told, and it's not what most people assume. So let's break it apart and look at what that silence is really made of, because once you understand it, you will never look at your baby the same way again.
The first thing most parents hear when they describe this behavior is one of three things. Either, oh, that's just stranger anxiety, or she's just shy, some babies are like that. Or the classic, well-meaning response, he just doesn't know me yet, give it time. And look, none of those things are entirely wrong. Stranger anxiety is real. It's a documented phase in infant development that typically begins somewhere around 5 to 6 months and tends to intensify between 7 and 12 months, according to research in developmental psychology. During this window, babies who have formed a healthy attachment to their primary caregivers start to become noticeably more selective about who they welcome and who they don't. That selectivity makes complete biological sense. It means the attachment is working exactly as it should. But here's where the common explanation falls short. The word anxiety does a lot of work that it probably shouldn't. When most people hear stranger anxiety, they picture a baby who is scared, overwhelmed, shutting down emotionally. And sometimes, yes, that is part of the picture, but that picture leaves out the most important part of what's happening, the part that happens before the fear, before the crying, before any emotional response at all. There is a stage that comes first, and that's the stage almost nobody talks about. It's the stage where your baby goes completely quiet, and that stage isn't fear. That stage is something far more precise and far more powerful. To understand it, we need to go deeper, all the way into the mechanics of your baby's brain. Researchers in developmental psychology have identified that newborns and young infants move through 6 distinct behavioral states across the day. There's deep sleep, active sleep, drowsiness, crying, and then 2 alert states, active alert and quiet alert. Most parents are familiar with the active alert state. That's when your baby is awake, engaged, making sounds, kicking, reacting to your face and your voice. That's the state people associate with a happy, stimulated baby. But there is another state, the quiet alert state, and it is arguably the most powerful of all 6. In this state, the baby goes still. Movement stops or slows dramatically. Sounds stop. Breathing steadies and becomes deeper and more even. The eyes open wide and become intensely focused. And from the outside, this can look like blankness, like the lights are on but nobody's home. But that description couldn't be more wrong. During the quiet alert state, the infant brain is not disengaged. It is in its highest possible gear. This is the state in which infants most effectively absorb information from the world around them. Their visual attention is at its sharpest. Their brain's capacity for taking in, processing, and beginning to make meaning from new sensory input is maximized.
This is the state researchers at Pathways and institutions studying neonatal behavior have identified as the ideal window for learning and sensory engagement, because in this state, the baby isn't performing, isn't communicating outward, isn't expending energy on anything except one thing, taking it all in. Now here's the critical piece. When something new and socially significant enters your baby's environment, a new face, a new voice, an unfamiliar presence, the brain does something called an orienting response. It's an automatic neurological reflex that essentially does this. It mutes outgoing behavior. It quiets the sounds, stills the body, narrows the focus. Because the brain has just detected something it doesn't have a full read on yet, and it needs every available resource directed inward toward processing. The silence you see isn't absence, it's allocation. Your baby's brain is redirecting its energy away from output and toward the most urgent task in front of it, figuring out who this person is and whether they are safe. And the way your baby does that figuring is more sophisticated than most adults would ever guess.
Research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that by 12 months of age, infants are not randomly evaluating strangers. They are doing something far more structured. They are watching how that stranger interacts with their parent. They're reading the social signals between the adults around them, the warmth, the responsiveness, the body language, and they are using that data to form a judgment about whether this new person belongs in their circle of trust or not. This means your baby isn't just staring at your mother-in-law because she looks unfamiliar. Your baby is watching what your face does when she walks in. Your baby is picking up on whether you relax or tense, whether your voice changes, whether the interaction between the adults feels warm or feels off. And your baby is filing all of that away, quietly in the background, while appearing to do absolutely nothing. Neuroscience backs this up in a striking way. Research using functional near-infrared spectroscopy, brain scanning technology adapted for infants, found that 5-month-olds show distinct activation in the left prefrontal cortex when they are engaged in social evaluation. The left prefrontal cortex is associated with approach motivation, social learning, and decision-making. When a social partner behaves in ways that feel cooperative or safe, this region lights up. When the interaction feels incongruent, when something doesn't match, a different region fires to process the mismatch. Your baby's brain is running a full social assessment using neural architecture that researchers once assumed wouldn't be this functional until years later. And here is the deeper twist that most parents never hear. The groundbreaking still face research by developmental psychologist Edward Tronick, first published in 1978 and replicated many times since, showed that even very young infants are not just passive receivers of social input, they are active detectors of social responsiveness. They are constantly scanning the faces around them for signals. Is this person reacting to me? Are they engaged? Are they present? A face that gives no signal, that stays neutral and unreadable, is not comforting to a baby. It is a problem to be solved. And in the same way, a stranger's face is a face with no established signal yet. The baby goes quiet not because there is nothing to process, but because there is everything to process, and the brain needs silence to do it. The silence is the scan. The stillness is the thinking, and what comes after, whether your baby eventually smiles, reaches out, or starts to cry, is the result of that evaluation reaching a conclusion. So what does this mean for you as a parent? It means that the next time your baby goes still and silent around someone new, the right instinct is not to apologize for it or to try to override it by rushing the interaction. That silence is healthy. It is evidence of a brain doing exactly what it is supposed to do, evaluating, protecting, learning. If your baby goes quiet and then, after a moment, breaks into a small, cautious smile or allows that person a little closer, that's the evaluation resolving positively. The assessment came back safe. If your baby goes quiet and then pulls away or starts to fuss, that's also healthy.
The brain did its job and flagged something that didn't feel fully right yet. Neither outcome is a problem. Both outcomes are intelligence. What you can do in these moments is actually very simple. You don't need to hand your baby over quickly or encourage them to warm up before they're ready. Just stay calm yourself. Your emotional state is one of the strongest data points your baby has access to. Researchers have found consistently that infants read their caregivers' physiological cues, voice tone, body tension, facial expression, when trying to make sense of unfamiliar situations. If you are relaxed and warm toward the new person, your baby registers that and uses it. You are, in a very real sense, part of the safety signal your baby is processing. One thing worth knowing, most babies move through this quiet evaluation phase fairly reliably between 6 and 12 months, and it gradually softens over the second year as the baby's social world expands and their brain becomes more efficient at these assessments. If the silence you're noticing seems to extend well beyond strangers, if your baby goes extremely quiet, still, or unresponsive in most interactions across most contexts, that is worth mentioning gently to your pediatrician. Not as cause for alarm, but because range matters, and a good clinician can help you understand what's typical for your specific child.
Let's sit with this for a moment. You have a baby who goes completely silent when someone new enters the room, and everything you were told framed that as a limitation: shyness, anxiety, not knowing people, needing time to warm up. But what the science says is something completely different. That silence is your baby running one of the most complex social algorithms in nature, scanning a new face, checking the adults they trust for safety cues, searching for signals of warmth, responsiveness, and belonging, using a brain that is already, at just a few months old, firing in its prefrontal cortex, forming social judgments, tracking relationships, and learning what trust looks like. That quiet little face isn't blank, it is reading. That stillness isn't confusion, it's concentration. Your baby isn't struggling to be social. They are, in the most literal sense possible, practicing it. So the next time the room goes quiet and you feel that flicker of worry, try replacing it with something closer to wonder. Because what you are watching in real time is the earliest version of your child figuring out the world, one careful, silent assessment at a time. If this gave you a new way to see your baby, share it with someone who needs to hear it.